Welcome, everybody. I'm James O'Connor. I'm the CEO of Innovation Within. Today, we'd like to take you through the Discovery Platform, which is a SaaS platform to help people go through this whole process of finding product market fit by using the business model canvas and customer discovery to validate their hypotheses. Just a couple high-level things about the system. You'll get an invitation. The invitation will have a link. The link will take you to a page where you create your username and your password. So create a username that you can remember. That's the way you will log on. You don't log on using your email. You log on with your username. And that username allows you to be in multiple organizations over time as you use the system, in case you were doing work for other companies or for yourself or for other cohorts. So let me just give you a brief overview of the user interface of the platform so you can get anchored to it. What you see at the top is this blue bar called the application bar, and that has all the icons that take you to the different features of the application, as well as this placard on the right side that shows you where you are in the system. So if you switch between orgs or teams, it'll always keep that updated, and it also shows you right here who you are logged in as. On the right, this little thing that says TM, that's a badge that tells you what role you have. Now, everybody on this call will be an instructor, so what that badge will look like is a yellow eye, and I'll show you that in a little bit. And then this little gear menu right here is where you can change your profile. We encourage everybody to upload a profile picture because we do chat inside the platform, and it's a lot easier for people to recognize you based on your image than your name. And here's where you can change your email address or password if you wanted to. Also in the gear menu, if you want to, you can get help. If you click the help, it'll take you to our knowledge base. So that'll answer lots of questions. So if users or you have any questions about this, that will take you right to it. And then support will actually allow you to send an email to us, and we monitor that very, very actively. Okay, and this is also where you can sign up. Two other things just to really anchor as far as using the platform is on the far right and the far left of the screen, over here and over here, are two icons that allow you to enable features that as an instructor you want to use all the time. The first one is Instructor Chat. And if you click that icon, you'll notice that it's slid out a chat view. And this chat view allows you to chat on the different chat channels that are built into the platform. And in a cohort setting like you'll be using it, there's 6 different channels. There's a channel for instructors to talk to each other across the cohort. There's a chat channel for instructors to talk to each other on a per team basis. Then there's a channel for the team members on each team. There's instructor feedback. There's team feedback. And then there's a cohort-wide channel that would be used to broadcast a message to everybody in the cohort. I know that sounds like a lot, but it's actually pretty easy to use. And the way you do that is you just come over here on this menu, and whatever chat channels that are available to you, you will see right here. And you can see I'm just a team member, so I only see team chat and instructor feedback. Also, there's this nice little control here that allows you to show 1 or 2 chat channels. This is really useful for instructors because quite often the workflow of an instructor is to be chatting with the other instructors during presentations and to be talking to the team. So this allows you to set up both chat channels and keep them both active at the same time. And you'll see that as I progress through the demonstration of the platform. So anyhow, just to know that this chat is something you can open and close whenever you want to. If you got enough screen real estate, you might want to leave it open all the time, but if you're on a small little laptop, this is something you may want to pop open. This left icon is the show hide organization tree. And what that does is that allows you to see the rest of the organization you're in. And if you look here, we are in an organization called Piper, and we're in a team called Compression, and you'll also see that up over here. And if I switch to another team, like I'm just going to click on Ops Team right here, and you'll notice that the business model canvas changed, and then also up here it shows that my org, cohort, team, user, and everything updated, and also my roles changed. So your roles can be set on a team level, on a cohort level, at an organization level, and you can have multiple roles. So you could be an instructor, for example, and a team member, or you could be an instructor and also an administrator of the cohort. And you'll see all of your roles right there, and they each have a different color icon to make sure you don't get confused. Going back to what I was showing you before with the chat, Now you can see in this view, I can jump from team to team with just a simple click of the mouse on the left side. And on the right side, the chat channels change automatically for me. So this allows me just with a single click to look at their canvas and then to either chat with instructors. And here's a typical setup. I'm in instructor chat and I'd be doing instructor feedback. So in this case, this top channel allows me to talk to the instructors on a private channel. And then down below, I can give feedback to the teams as they're giving presentation. One more little handy feature is that the instructor channels that are private, we actually put that yellow eye in there just so you know that if you see that yellow eye in the channel, that's private, because we know that you guys want to talk privately and you don't want to say the wrong thing in the wrong channel. So that's just to reinforce that visually. Okay, so this is a typical setup of how Instructor would use the platform. They are literally looking at each team. So if I switch to team, all I have to do is a single click. Once I'm in a team, I could switch between the different views, and that's what I'd like to go through next, just the main features. Also, one more thing I wanted to point out is that we have tooltips everywhere. So if you get confused, you don't know what something is, you should just be able to hover over it and it'll tell you. Here's a business model canvas. User has entered all their hypotheses. Just so you know, when a hypothesis is green, that means that they think it's validated. If you want to, you can hit the X and that will invalidate it, or you can just toggle to take it to its clear state. We want everybody to link each hypothesis on the canvas to one of their customer segments. Let me just show you how that's done, just so you'll know what that means when you see that later in the application. So for example, if I wanted to click this value prop no downtime to some of my customer segments, there's this link icon, I click it. It already is. Let me go to another one. So if I wanted to link that to streaming, I would just click that and you'll see that that gets linked. And then I come over here. The way you see those links is you just hover over each hypothesis. That red badge there that says 10 says there's 10 hypotheses to the left that are linked to this. If I hover over it, what it's going to do is hide everything except the linked one. So you can just see what's linked to this. So it makes it really easy for you to just kind of quickly look and see the links that the teams have done. All right, so now I'm going to go through the rest of the features of the app that you'd want to see as your instructor. From a user perspective, they mostly live in these first three icons: the business model canvas, customer discovery, and the insights view. The rest of these features are all available to them, but just from a workflow perspective, they spend 99% of their time in these three features. The second feature, a main feature of the platform, is the discovery feature. This is where you do your interviews with your customers. So this is the discovery feature of the platform. On the left, you can see the list of all the interviews that the team has done. It's sorted by most recent top, oldest on the bottom, shows you the name of the person you did the interview with, the date, and who did the interview. You can select the interview on the left just by clicking on it. When you select an interview, one of the powerful features we have is the ability to annotate the important points that came out of the interview, and that's done very simply by just selecting some text. You'll see that it was quoted over here and clicking save. If you want to, you can select the text. You can change the category to a different category. We have 5 main categories. You can enter a comment. And if you want, you can link it to one of the hypotheses on the business model canvas just by selecting it and then clicking save. And you can delete one of these as well. And all of these insights that are entered here in the insights view for all of your interviews are also available in one screen called the insights view right here. This feature allows you to see all of the insights for all of the users across all of the customer discovery they did. And this is really useful. From an instructor standpoint, this is really useful to see if the team is actually generating insights from their customer discovery. And if you look here, here's the insights across this entire team since the beginning. And again, this is test data, so this is kind of garbage, but you get the point. It shows you the category, who did it, the date, who you interviewed, and then what was the comment that they annotated, as well as a comment that the user did, as well as links back to the actual hypotheses on the canvas. So this is where if you found 15 different insights that all supported or didn't support a hypothesis, that's, at a certain point in time, you realize that's when I want to validate or invalidate it. So this view is really useful for just scrolling through and looking at that. And because it's sorted the most recent on top, as an instructor, every week when they do the presentations, when you look in this view, you'll just see the most recent interviews, insights, and you can scroll down to see more. The filter section on the left is actually really useful too, because it allows you to look for specific things like from a specific user or a specific type of insight, or it's linked to a specific part of the canvas. And I'll demonstrate that. So for example, I'm logged on as Jared right now. So I don't really want to see my customer discovery. I want to see what everybody else has done. And this is something a team member would do. I want to see, there's only one insight because this is, just bogus data. But the point is I could see the work that other people on the team did. Or I can drill down and say, I just want to see every feature request that we've ever gotten from our customer discovery. And here they are, just like that. Another workflow utility is to be able to just unclick all of the link to hypotheses section. Every insight that is not linked to one of the hypotheses on the business model canvas. So everything should be linked, and the fact that these aren't means that they need to link those. So as an instructor, you could kind of coach them and say, hey, you guys have a bunch of stuff that's not linked. And then all you have to do here is say, oh, I know why I forgot to link that, and you do it, and you click save. And if you go back, you'll see that that's no longer there because it's now linked. So that's a useful little feature. But this is nice too, because if you wanted to say, I just want to see all of the insights that are related to our customer segments, I can do that really, really quickly. And then I can actually see which ones by hovering over here. We also have a built-in search engine, which is great for the teams, not something maybe you guys would use, but you could just type a search string there and it'll return your results. Over here, we also have the activity feed, and this shows everything that has ever been done by anybody on that project. So you can see we can go all the way back to the very first hypothesis was created, and we can see every hypothesis, every interview, every insight that was created, what it was linked to. And this is also another useful feature just from an instructor standpoint to just kind of look at the team and see what they've done in the last week. We know as an instructor quite often you want to know whether the team's been doing things at a regular pace, just stuffed everything in the system at the very end, and you can actually see that by looking here. So the other feature that I think the instructors will want to use a lot is our dashboard. Our dashboard allows you to look and see how many interviews each team has done and compare that to the rest of the cohort. So let me just kind of go through how that works. So you'll see 3 sets of graphs here. And again, sorry, this data isn't really makes sense because in a typical cohort, you'd see 20 teams here instead of 5 teams. So you could see that for each team we show on the left what was done, in other words, how many interviews they did. And on the right, we show how many insights came out of it. It's kind of an interesting metric to look at how many interviews did you do and approaching 100 interviews. These teams haven't done much because it's test data, but you can see relatively how teams are doing. And then on the right, it actually shows how many insights each team has done since the cohort started. You can see dev team has done the most, and each bar is clickable. So if you click on a bar, it'll select that bar in the graphs below and re-pull the data from the system and show you that. So you can see I clicked on ops team, and now ops team is selected. And I'm just going to scroll back to the beginning. Normally your cohorts last over 8 weeks. So you would, for that team, typically see it all right here on the screen, how many interviews they did each week with the total being up there. And then on the left here, you have the scrolling bar that allows you to see the insights they did each week. So at the top level, you're looking at it from a cohort perspective. The second set of graphs is looking at a team perspective. And the bottom set of graphs is looking at the individuals on the team. So I'm not sure if your cohorts have multiple people doing interviews, but here you can see how many interviews each person has done and how many insights they've done. This is actually a way to get a kind of metric on collaboration. Is everybody working together and reviewing the interviews and coming up with insights, or is one person doing it all? Any questions on the dashboard?
Hi, I actually had a question.
Sure.
And I don't know if this is the right time, it's Philip. But in some of the cohorts, the students are required to upload their business model canvas on a PowerPoint slide. So is there a way to export your current business model canvas?
Yes.
The picture gets pixelated, just do a straight export.
Yeah, I'll show you how to do that. Before I jump to that, because it's kind of a context switch, I just want to show you one more thing. So the dashboard you see when you select a team in a cohort looks like this, right? It's the actual, metrics on the team. But if you click the cohort itself, you'll see a different a dashboard, and this is just the cohort statistics. So this is a way where you'd see all 20 of the teams you have in your cohort, and you could see how many interviews and insights and hypotheses and validated and invalidated hypotheses for each team. And each one of these columns is clickable and sortable. So if I want to see who's got the most hypotheses or who has the most insights, I can just do that with a click. So Philip, let me answer your question. I'm going to go back to the business model canvas here. If you look here on the canvas, on the right side over here, there's a couple other extra icons, and one of them is Export Canvas. And if I just click this button, that's going to download and export the business model canvas right here. So basically, all you do is you have to hit that button, and it will download a PNG file. You can open it again right there from the bottom of the browser. One of the nice features of our download is that quite often the user puts a bunch of hypotheses in one pane, and then it scrolls off. If you look right here, you'll see that live video audio streaming is actually partially clipped on our actual business model canvas. But if we notice in the window, I'm going to go back to that again, you'll notice in the window that it wasn't clipped. So we have an algorithm that actually tries to resize the canvas so that everything can be seen. Now, clearly, if you had 50 hypotheses under key activities, then key activities would be really, really tall, and the canvas would start to look really, really bad. So the algorithm breaks down at a certain point in time, but in general, you shouldn't have 50 hypotheses, and it works really well. But there's some best practices that I'd like to just mention since you brought that up, because every week these guys will be downloading their canvases, putting in the PowerPoint presentations. One of the things that I would recommend is that you tell the students to resize the canvas to try and make it all look good themselves, because that just makes it easier. And there's two ways to do that. One is to zoom in and zoom out. Our platform is built on scalable vector graphics, so everything can be zoomed in and zoom out. And that's done with, well, it's different whether you're a Mac or a PC, but on a Mac, it's Command minus and Command plus. And by the way, this is all covered in the training PowerPoint. So I'm just going to zoom out right now. And you'll notice that that just made everything a little bit smaller, and that made everything fit. And if I zoom in, I can get to a point where things are being clipped. And if they're clipped, but I want it that big, one thing I can do is I can actually resize the window. So I can actually resize this window until I get it the way I want, and then I can export the canvas right there. It'll look perfect. So there's some things that the users can do. But you know, I've seen a lot of business model canvases where somebody early on in their first week puts 35 hypotheses in one segment. That's just going to fail. Does that answer your question, Philip?
Yeah, I really like the algorithm that kind of digitalized the canvas that kept it. So I think it looks really good.
Thank you. Thank you. We thought about that one. That took a fair amount of work to get right, but I just want you to know it will break down if you overdo it. And while we're here, I just want to mention a couple other things. This allows you to go look at the canvas at different times. So if I want to, I can go here and look at the canvas on week 1, or I can look at it on any week I want to. This canvas doesn't change, so you're not really seeing it change over week to week, because this is just sample data. But typically the user has, you know, all sorts of hunches at the beginning, and that changes over time, and you'll be able to see that as you pick which week they want to see in the canvas. Another convenience feature is this last icon allows you to toggle the canvas into a list view. And the list view is really useful for if you just want to print it out and you don't want it in the canvas form, but you want a list form and maybe you want to write notes on it and just look at it that way. Or some people have hypotheses with a lot of text in them. So this can be useful for that case. Not necessarily something you guys would use, but it can be pretty handy. One more thing I wanted to mention about the canvas is that you'll notice that where it says business model canvas, we have this icon right here, and we also have this text. And when the canvas is blank, here's what it looks like. This plus allows the user, if they click plus, to start editing here and type in a nice little descriptive summary of their project. And the idea behind this was instructors looking at 20 different teams may not remember them based on their team name or just looking at the canvas. And this is like a tweet that says, this is what my project is about. And if the teams want to, there's the ability to add detailed notes about your canvas. So if you click this, you can enter a nice descriptive essay. Quite often, some of our teams, they like to write who they are, where they came up with this idea, what their mission is, what they think this is all about. It's interesting to compare that as they move forward in time, but that's what that's for. I would encourage the teams to fill out at least this little tweet right here so that the instructors can see what's going on. All right, I just want to show you a couple more features of the platform. You saw the dashboard. Two other things we have are we have the video library. This is a video library that has all of Steve Blank's videos. And if I just click on one of these, it'll bring it up and it'll start streaming it. Of course, we know you want the teams to look at all of the videos that Steve has done. Also at the very bottom, there are two tutorial videos, one on how to use the platform, an overview, and then another one on the insights view to get a better understanding of it. So just a really useful resource for everybody. So let me also show you, we have what we call the information hub. We have two of them. You could think of the information hub as a simple Wikipedia page. It's a page that allows you to have headings. You can have as many headings as you want, and then these headings can be expanded and contracted, and then each one of these can actually take you to another link. This is really good for putting up the curriculum or shared resources or suggested reading materials or whatever the cohort wants to use as a bulletin board for the entire cohort to reference. And that's the white eye. The blue eye is per team inside of a cohort. That's where we put the weekly presentations. So if you're an instructor and you want to just jump to the presentations for each team, just jump to that team, click on that eye and go here, and that'll take you to the Dropbox folder that has their PowerPoint presentation. And that's how you can navigate to that really easily. And then the last feature I want to show you is this little utility feature that just shows me the team members. And if I click that, that'll show me who else is on my team. That's pretty much it for the overview for instructors. Is there any questions that anybody has or want me to dig down deeper into any more features?
Hey, James, this is John Blejo.
Hi, John.
How would an instructor comment on either the Canvas or a narrative, like say, like music industry? Say you want to have more information there. Can the instructor click that box that says music industry and customer segments and leave a message? I mean, how do we communicate with them?
That's a great question. First of all, the best way to do it now is to do that through the chat channel. So what I would do as an instructor, I would just go to instructor feedback, and then I would say, hey, so-and-so, I was noticing your music industry customer segment. Here's my thoughts on it. And then they're going to get a notification. And when a text comes through, what'll happen is they'll get a notification. Up here, they'll get a red badge showing that they have unread messages, and then they can go and they can jump right to that. And that's really useful. And one thing I will tell you is that because of all the chat channels we have on the platform, we have found that it gets used really extensively, which is a really great thing because there's no thinking about it. Like if you had external Slack or something like that, you'd have to set up all these channels, but it's just built in. So it just facilitates constant collaboration. I understand what you're asking for, and we are actually working on a feature that we're hoping to have ready by the time that your cohort starts. The way that would work is that you would be able to, for example, they had some notes here and they had some insights. You would be able to select this just like this, and you'd be able to comment on it. And you click comment, and you could type your comment here and click save. And then the student, the team member, would get a notification in chat that instructor such and such created a comment, said this, so they would get the notification in chat, but it would also be in their insights view itself, and they'd be able to filter on it. Instead of showing me all the new features, they could say, show me instructor comments, and they could say, show me the comments from whatever instructor I want to. So that's something that we're working on. The nice thing about that is that whenever you create one of these insights, it'll automatically text them and let them know that this instructor texted this information, and then they can look at it again if they want by going to the insights view.
Hey, James, this is Blake. So, by the way, John, that was one of the things that we noticed was an urgent need for during our cohort using IW. But you keep saying that they'll get a notification or a text. You're talking about a badge on the chat, correct?
Correct.
You still don't have the capability to either send an email or somehow externally reach out to them to let them know notification?
So that's an interesting issue because a lot of people have told us they don't want emails. It's disruptive because there's just a lot of data flowing back and forth. So what we did is we built in this chat feature into the platform. And the nice thing about that is whenever you log back into the platform, you'll see up here, this will be a red badge count showing you how many unread messages. And for an instructor, what you'll see, because you're on all these different teams, this thing right here will have its own badge count as well. This badge count is for the current team you're on, and this badge count is for the whole cohort, actually all the cohorts you're a member of that have unread messages. So you might see that demo had 5 unread messages and dev team had 15 and ops team had 3. and these would be tallied up right here, and you would see that. And then you could jump to each one of those teams and see those on the messages you hadn't read.
So that actually is a count of unread messages, and once they've read them, that count disappears, I assume.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
It goes away.
All right. Well, James, I'll reiterate that is a great improvement, and I hope you can get that installed before the summer cohorts. I'm also gonna advocate for adding that functionality on the Canvas as well. The comments on the dialogue for the interviews, yes, that's important. Just as important, I think, are being able to comment on mistakes or things they need to think about with their Canvas input.
I hear you loud and clear. I just want you guys to know this feature is important to us as well. And we worked really hard to, but we have a few things we have to finish to get that done. So we are working on it. Let me explain, you brought up the issue on the Canvas. That's a great idea. And the way that we want that to work is that you would just be able to drag a hypothesis to the chat channel, and then they would get like @mention. You guys know Slack, I can say @mention Blake. Then he'll get a notification that said, hey, James said something about you. Whereas this will be a @mention of an object, which is the hypotheses. So then Blake could drag music industry into the instructor feedback channel and say, hey, demo team, I don't think you really understand how these customer segment work, or whatever your feedback is. That's the way we want to handle that. And the idea is that any object in the system can be referenced in a chat channel. That's a feature we have on our roadmap. Great feedback,
yeah, James,
though.
that would be really helpful. Hey, Blake, what did you do to complain about no humans in customer segments? Did you just put it in the instructor feedback? Did they get it?
Yes, basically everything was managed through instructor feedback. There was a lot of slippage, John, between barking at the teams to check their feedback and respond to us, let us know that you are doing something with it. And there were probably 90% of the teams just simply saying, oh, I didn't see that, or I didn't know what you were talking about, didn't understand it. And so it really shut down the dialogue capability of LPC and some of the other platforms. But James, I'm glad to see that y'all are building that in, because that once the teams are no longer in person with us, this is the only way for us to dialogue with them. And so improvement on that end, I think, is dire.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks, Blake. Hey, James, I noticed
Yes.
also, where it says instructor feedback, it's just a blog. It says a few seconds ago, 6 minutes ago, 9 days ago. We're going to be talking days. Will it have it'll say on Sunday night, John put this comment there. I mean, I'm afraid that it's just going to scroll up and they're never going to see the comment. I mean, how does that work? Yeah, so if you hover over it, it pops up.
Yeah, see how it shows you the actual date that it happened?
Okay.
Is that what you wanted to do?
Too. That's good.
Right. Yeah.
No. What I'm afraid of is, as there's more comments going in, your comment will just scroll up to the top, and they may miss it.
Right. But if they haven't read the comment, then they will have a badge here that says they haven't read it.
Yeah, I can imagine the badge going up to 2030. At some point, they just stop looking at it.
Yeah.
I mean, knowing, because we routinely put over 100 comments on a single team. So it's a huge number.
This feedback is great, and let me give you my email address, james@innovationwithin.com. And as you're using the platform, get in touch with me on that, because I've got some ideas about how the best way to handle that. It's one of the most unsolved problems in the space of chat. Everybody does notifications of unread messages different, and that's something we're thinking about, and that would be after these other features we were just talking about. Instructors that have opinions, please reach out to me, because we're all about making you guys happy and doing customer discovery. And I don't want to just implement features in a way that doesn't work for you. So I hear what you're saying. It's something I thought of. I thought of something where...
Well, you know what I like? I look at your canvas. I like the red, green, and white. If they read it, it goes white. If they haven't read it, it's green.
Right.
Just something as simple as that. It tells you comments that you haven't read or haven't looked at or acknowledged or something.
So let me ask you this. What defines something being read? The fact that it was on screen, that you scrolled to it, that you clicked on it, that you sat for a certain amount of time? Because this is the problem where every chat program does it differently. Most chat programs, if you just click on the chat window and it's active, then everything is now unread. But that doesn't mean that you scroll back and looked at the beginning, like you said. So see what I'm saying? This is where it gets, and if you had 100 here, would it be that when we scroll back to the first one and that far, and then it had been seen? That's where it gets tricky.
Well, what I see is the thread issue as well. There's no way to link the comments. Everything is just a scrolling blog. There's no threads to have a conversation back and forth about a topic.
I think that's the key, John. There is even James, if you were able to put together a nice a feature set on these chat boxes. Most of the commentary left by instructors are, this is Socratic, so we're going to be asking them questions. So my opinion is a chat is read once they respond to that question, either responding with their response or by some action in the Canvas. And in this chat format, if I ask them 5 questions and they need to do something in response to that, it's practically impossible for them to show me that. Even if it shows as read, I still want to see some response, and then that gets practically unmanageable.
Yeah, I really understand what you're saying. Chat is, like you said, it's just like a blog. It's a stream. And I don't even know of a chat program that handles threading correctly. Slack is based on channels. That's great for topics, but like you said, these are individual threads that you want to have where you might have in your instructor chat. I'm going to go to the channel. In your instructor feedback, you might want to have 10 threads. And like you said, I asked 5 questions. And so there's got to be a way that you would indicate when you type something in here, right? Maybe it's something like this, right? And then that means that that's a question and that has to be answered, right? And then the user has to have a way where they give a response and they would say maybe mention that specific thing. That's one way, but what you guys are asking for is a really great idea. I don't know of any program that solved it really, really well. You essentially want dynamic threads that are on the fly, but you don't really want to handle each thread as a separate chat channel because that would just become ridiculous.
So James, what it sounds like is it's just flagging. It's like what you were talking about, like say music industry. If we could drag that into the chat, then it flags it. This topic that we're talking about is music industry, right? Right,
and but you not only want to flag it, but you also want to say they responded and it's resolved, and then you get notified of that. I just want you guys to know this is a really tough problem, and I'm open to your suggestions and your ideas because I understand the ask. I'm just not sure the right way to do it. But the idea of using chat and having mentions of the objects, I think helps. But there's a couple different ways. There's the idea that you could search for things, or you could filter on flag things. There's lots of different ways to handle threading in chat.
I know you guys are continuing to add and build the platform, but considering what it is at this stage, what's your suggestion on the best way for us to have? I mean, you understand the problem that we have. I mean, clearly Blake had it. I anticipate having it. What's your suggestion? What's the best way for us to handle this? Using the platform as it exists now.
The best way to handle it right now is to use instructor feedback as a chat channel. And remember, you have a channel per team, and use the instructor feedback chat channel and then mention what it is you're talking about. So like I did here, hey team, I'm not sure about your customer segment music industry, and then make your comment there. I know you said that you would have like 100, but 100 chats isn't so much that you can't scroll back for a couple pages and keep track of it. So that's the best answer right now.
So this is Kevin. I've got a couple questions to follow up, if that's okay. Can you send a broadcast message to the cohort?
Yeah, that would be done through general channel.
Gotcha. It goes to everyone. Okay. And then the other question I have is, in the past when we had weekly presentations, we had a mechanism for scoring the presentation that day to keep track of progress. Is there a mechanism to do that here?
No, there isn't. And we talked about doing that when we first started working with the NSF on this. And the reason we didn't do it is because it's highly subjective and it was inconsistent how people rated people and who rated them. But the ratings didn't show that. So they could get a 7 because one person said a 7 and nobody else rated them. And that wasn't indicated in that graph. And so I know it's a feature that LPC had, but when we talked about this early on, we had a discussion about that and we agreed that it was kind of subjective judgment that wasn't super effective and wasn't really used that much.
So James, what about peer-to-peer? Can the teams comment on each other?
Yeah, the way that works is there's the peer feedback channel. Let me go through the channels so you really understand them. And by the way, that's all described on the help page as well. The peer feedback channel is one channel for each team in the cohort that includes all the other teams talking to the team. So anybody of the other teams can type information here and team demo will get it. And then we have the instructor feedback, which is the same thing, but it's only instructors. So this is private. So if you wanted to say something critical that you didn't want the other teams of the cohort to see, this is where you would do that. Okay, so we have two feedback channels. Then the general channel, which we just showed you, that is cohort-wide. This is via broadcast. This is where Amanda might say, hey, everybody, our meeting's going to be 30 minutes later, something like that. And the team has their own team chat, which is just a private chat channel for them to talk amongst themselves to serve as a form of collaboration while they're working in the platform. And then we have the two instructor channels, the two yellow eye channels, which are both private. One's cohort-wide, and then the other one's just per team. So this is typically how an instructor would have the setup. They have their instructor chat where they're talking to each other, and then they have their instructor feedback where they're talking to the team.
Hey, just anecdotally, I'll tell the other instructors, we utilized it like James is showing here with the double chat, especially on day 2 and 3 as the teams are broken into separate rooms. Instructor chat can be between the instructors needing to talk to someone else in another room, you know, what's the progress over there, we're almost finished, whatever. But then the back channel between the instructors, and then the instructor chat was more the real time, everyone in the same room.
And Blake, it was your idea to do the double chat, right?
Well, if everybody likes it, then yes.
You may have been the first cohort we did with the NSF that wasn't a pilot, international pilot.
Customer zero.
Yeah, that's right. And he suggested this feature, and we're like, that is a great idea, and we implemented it and got it out in a couple days. So we try and be as responsive as we can. The whole reason this instructor comment thing hasn't been done is because the backlog of other features for our enterprise customers, and B, because we really wanted to think through and do it correctly. And enterprise customers, we implemented some security stuff that makes this whole platform really safe, including encryption at rest and two-factor authentication for administration. So your data is safe.
Yeah, a piece of advice for John and anybody who's coming up on a cohort, and as a pat on the back to James, very responsive and obviously very customer discovery focused. These guys want to know what works and what doesn't work for you.
All right, everybody. Thank you for being here today and taking a look at our platform. If you have any questions, please reach out to us, and I'll get you guys the YouTube link to this video as soon as I get it uploaded.
Thank you, James.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks. Bye-bye.